Carl, and Talia at PloneConf. This is my first time attending, and my colleague Carl is also here, as you know. He's speaking a bit later today. We are very excited to be visiting a new continent, South America, and a new country, Brazil. But even though it's my first time here, I've been quite invisible in the Plone community up until recently. I've been involved with Plone and Juicy from the start. I'm a co-owner of our company together with my husband, Johan. Let me just say right from the start that I'm not the technical one at Juicy. I'll leave that up to Johan, Carl, and now Alex, who's recently joined our team. As you can see, I'm a little nervous. A friend of mine suggested this morning that I should put some caipirinha in a coffee mug and hang a tea bag on the outside. And my planning was obviously not good enough, so I don't have that here with me. So please bear with me. I've done mainly content updates since the very first versions of Plone. So I'm quite aware of the evolution of Plone from this. I think this is 2.0, all the way through to Plone 5, and now Plone 6 Classic and Volto. I've even ventured into the site setup from time to time, and I've even been here, and I've done some work here, but it's usually a case of get me out of this place before I break something. I've also been a member of the Plone Foundation marketing team since the middle of last year. It's great working with the Plonistas from all over the world, especially our core team, Rico Becker, Brian, Sally, and earlier this year, Fred, Kim, and Martin. By the way, while I'm on that subject, this is my ad break. I can really recommend joining one of the Plone teams. So if you go to that URL of the QR code, you can have a look at the different teams that are available. It helps you to strengthen your connection to the community, and it also makes our clients happy. They know we're connected to the Plone community, and we stay up to date with the latest Plone happenings, which is to their advantage. When they sign with Juicy, they sign up to Plone, but they don't have to worry about keeping up to date because we do that for them. All right, enough background on me and or how much or how little I know about the technical stuff. Back to my topic. Our uses of Plone are not independent of what's happening in the world. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I want to bring some context to my talk for a special use case that we had for Plone recently. To do that, I'm going to venture into the forbidden table talk politics. A crucial part of any democratic society is the electoral system. In a democracy, the majority rules, and this is determined with periodic free elections. Oh my word, this year we have had so many elections in the world. More than 100 countries from around the world, home to nearly half of the world's population, will vote or have already voted this year in national and municipal elections. The image here shows only the national elections. These elections include the municipal and national ones. They include 8 of the world's 10 most populous nations: Bangladesh, Brazil, India, Indonesia, Mexico, Pakistan, Russia, and the United States. And in addition, the European Union also held elections for the European Parliament in June. That means about 4 billion voters, approximately half of the world's population, were or are eligible to vote this year. And there have been some significant shifts in politics as a result. Who here today has voted in a national or a municipal election this year? See, it's about half the room, at least half the room. In South Africa, our national elections took place on 29 May this year. They were probably, after 1994, the most important elections in the last 30 years. and this is the time span of our young democracy. In the run-up to any election, the citizens, the political parties, the business leaders, the media, they all want to know what the democratic election outcome might be. Who's going to win? That's what they want to know. To forecast this, opinion polls are used. Many people, a representative sample, are asked the same questions to find out what most people think about something. Questions like, if the election was today, who would you vote for? The results show where that country's political system is at that point. Here's a quote from our client, the Social Research Foundation. The most important aspect of polling is the provision of information about where a country's political system is at any given point. And people do want to know. This information is useful top down and bottom up. Top down because top businesses, political donors, political parties, they all want to know what direction politics is moving. Bottom up because it allows the average citizen to be more informed over the current state of politics and make decisions around it. Gabriel gave an example of the UK, where polling showed people in a specific constituency that their preferred candidate was unlikely to win, but by voting for their second favorite candidate, they may prevent their least preferred candidate from getting elected. Earlier this year, we were approached by our client to solve a very specific problem. They were involved with opinion polls and needed to get their reports out there faster. There was too much of a delay between them receiving the polling data and getting it online in a format that made sense to their audience. The audience being the country's citizens and the media. So that's what we focused on, how to help them get their polling data out faster. The problem was speed. I can't think of that word without thinking of this movie. Can you believe it's been 30 years since this movie came out? And that is as old or as young as our democracy in South Africa. This is what their workflow looked like before we got on board. They received the raw data, usually on a daily basis. They outsourced this part to a company called Victory Research. They analyzed the data in-house. They would collate it and decide which criteria are the important ones to display. Then they send it off to the typesetter, who would turn it into a PDF. Someone would manually create the image or the graph and send it back to them. That usually took more than a day. Then they made corrections and so on and so on. It meant significant delays between getting the results and getting them online. The points in red where most of the delays were, and also where they had the least control. What was the brief? I'm just going to grab myself some water. They obviously wanted a website. It had to have a minimalist look and feel. Our client's words were, the website doesn't get a personality, the data should speak for itself. The layout must read easily, and there must be this customization. Automatically create graphs and tables in a report format from a CSV file. So we were essentially building a data visualization library. Right, we made some decisions. We decided to go with Plone 6 Classic. Thank you. Classic actually fit the use case better here because of the structured input layout. And we decided to build a custom content type with minimal styling. Now, after our customization, the data is received, they collate it, then they insert it themselves. Into their Plone editor view, into the specific sections, They hit save and the results show up immediately. So if they see there's something not showing up right, they just go back, they tweak it a little bit, and then hit save again. No more waiting, no need to send it to the typesetter. So by how much time did we save them? Gabriel says, in the past, it sometimes took more than a week to get that data online. After the customization, he could get the results out within the same day. Right, let's look at the customization a little bit. This is what we built. There were 3 items of interest here: the report, the question, and the graph. So the client can add a new report. You can see over there are only 2 things that they can add. That the report is the overall container, so the editor can add new report. And this is what it looks like here. The items with the red dot next to them are the required fields. They can add a title, a report number, some information on the methodology, and conclusion if they wanted. They didn't always use everything, and a footnote. Then within that report, they could add a question. And inside a question, you can only add a graph. But inside that graph, this is where you have the options. This is where the action happens. Right. The opinion poll results are uploaded as a CSV file. You can see that over there. And you can easily replace it with a different file. You can choose 2 different chart types. The one is the line or a bar graph. You can have an option for a compact view. We've got 52 political parties in South Africa. If you opt for the full view, then you're uploading all the data. Compact view gives you the top 5. We also included some space for graph notes, and then also for a standard error percentage. Not caipirinha. Right. Okay. We made it. If that is 0, then it doesn't show at all. So it was up to them. They haven't actually used that functionality up to now, but they do have it. Right. We worked with Mike Metcalf on this, and he made the customization fit the client's CSV file, not the other way around. So they had their CSV file that they were receiving in a certain format, and we built the headings. We took the headings straight from there. We also didn't give them site-wide rights. They can only work in reports, and some things were locked. This made it better. There was less chance for error. It also gave the client less of a cognitive load. They could just quickly, we're looking at speed here, so they could make decisions quickly. It was also we also locked in things like what color is something going to be. So in the end, if they decided at some point down the line that this item needs to be a different color, then you change it in one place and then it changes it throughout the site. So we gave them that single source of truth functionality. Right, so this is what one of the graphs looked like. This is the line graph. And this site that we built them went live on the 7th of April. You can see there on the x-axis that's the date. 15 April is when he started running his daily tracking poll. And we ran them from the 15th of April till the 27th of May. The election was on the 29th of May. But the media needs to stop reporting, I think, 2 days before the election. That's the reason for that date. This website, by the way, is at srfreports.co.za. If you want to go and Google that so long and click around in there and have a look at the full report. Without the ability to do this so instantaneously, a daily tracking report wouldn't have been possible. You can't publish information a week later and call it a daily report, not for something that's so time sensitive like the elections. And you can see over here, whenever something interesting happened in the world or in South Africa, then that affected what people's answers were. Right. Okay. I don't know if you can make out there or if you're on the site yourselves to see the detail because it is a bit small over here. The lines are the different, the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes, political parties, and then a grey line for lumping together the rest of the what's left over of the 52. We also looked at, or they looked at different turnout models. In Brazil, I believe the voting is compulsory. Am I right? I think voting is compulsory. In South Africa, it's not compulsory. So we had a lot of drives. One of our other clients was involved with that to try and increase the amount of voters that actually went to the polls. If you don't want to vote in South Africa, you don't have to. So the SRF's polls that they were publishing are also the information was collated according to what the turnout might be. In the end, the turnout was about 58%. Right. Okay. The site saw a lot of traffic at the time. You can see this is a snapshot from the 7th of April when we went live all the way into June. Elections were 29 May. So the media, this was more media and people in the know that knew about this website. The media were getting the information here, but some private citizens as well. And why were the political results especially interesting this year? And I'm going to read this because these are Gabriel's words. In South Africa's case, for this year's election specifically, polling showed for a long time that the ruling party was going to lose their majority and so would need to form a coalition. This was the first time in 30 years that it would happen. This meant that the public had already started to consider coalitions the future of South African politics. It also meant that political parties that were paying attention could begin to prepare for coalition negotiations by considering if they would join with the ruling party and what they might demand if they were to do so. We had a significant political landscape change since 29 May. We are already seeing positive results and a general mood improvement and some economic recovery. So how accurate was this tracking poll in the end? I don't know if you can read that. It's a bit small. But it turns out that the tracking poll was the most accurate of all the pre-election opinion polls. Our one won. Now, what happens with this website and this functionality after the elections? The SRF continues to add more data. Here are some of the recent reports, and those of you that are on the site can see. One can click through there and spend quite a bit of time on some very interesting questions. I wonder sometimes who thought of which question. I've chosen one of these topics and to show this as an example of the bar graph. I've shown you the live tracking or the daily tracking line graph. This is the bar graph. A lot of South Africans do have children that live and work overseas. So this is a valid question. This one is collated by education and it's a simple yes or no. So the black one is primary school, blue is high school or most of high school, and then the green one is university graduate. In conclusion, I say again, our uses of Plone are dependent on what's happening in the world. I've shown that we've improved the system for our client and that this has real world benefits. What's ahead for the world next year and how is Plone going to assist? That is, and I'm going to use an Afrikaans word, toekomsmusiek, loosely translated, the music of the future. Thank you, Fred. Thank you for listening. I hope there's time for some questions. But before we, hope there's time for some questions. Thank you.
Leo Astrid, thank you for your present. It's open to questions.
I'm wondering what you did for caching.
You can ask Mike. You've got him on WhatsApp.
He
I
doesn't
said I'm
know
not
anything.
technical. Cardinal sitting there.
More questions? No? Finish?
I've also got a couple of interesting facts about elections. If I don't know how much time is there, not much.
It's a 10 minutes.
Who's in a country where the elections are compulsory? Nobody. Compulsory elections? The Brazilians, yes. In England, apparently, up until recently, you didn't have to even show your identification when you went to the polls because they felt it was an infringement of their rights. So in South Africa, when we go to the polls, we are also registered beforehand. But when you arrive there, and once you've voted, as you get your ballot paper, you get a mark on your thumb. I don't know if you remember the photo that I shared there. It's supposed to be permanent ink. So a lot of people share that photo of their finger with a mark on the day. And we have some restaurants and retail where you can go and get a free coffee if you've done it. This is all if you voted. This is all done to promote voting in our society where it is not compulsory. Then I had a look at some older or historical information on democracies. And we know the Roman Empire was one of the, or no, the Greek Empire was one of the democracies, the earliest democracies. And they even had a system where if you wrote somebody's name on a piece of broken pottery for a specific election, that elected them out of the country for 10 years into exile. I don't think any country's doing that anymore. Anyway, I think that's enough interesting information. Thank you for listening.
Nice.